Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to day 2 of the oneM2M conference on the journey to massive IoT through interoperable and open systems. Yesterday in the conference, we covered the oneM2M roadmap and certain showcase solutions, products, and devices. Today, we will be covering some deployments and talking about the certification ecosystem. We have the pleasure of, we have the honor of having Enrico Scarron, the steering committee chair, with us, who will be talking about deployments today in general. And before we get into the talk by him, I would like to introduce him briefly. So Enrico is currently serving as the chair of the steering committee of oneM2M through HC. And he's also the chair of the HC technical committee of Smart M2M. He's the standardization manager in charge of the coordination for IoT M2M standardization in the Telecom Italia group. Enrico has been involved deeply with the foundation of HC technical committee M2M, where he served as chair from 2011 till 2012. And he was one of the key members responsible for the creation of oneM2M. Enrico, over to you for talking about deployments in general of oneM2M.
Just to check on the slide. You have it? Okay. Okay, perfect. Let me show from the beginning. First slide. What I'm going to talk a little bit about is about oneM2M deployments in the European Union, at least the way in which we are using and some experience we had in Europe in the past years. Next slide, please. First of all, I'd like to list a little bit the kind of deployment that we had, especially on this build. I have two slides. One is more on the experimental side. The second slide is more on something which is on operation. And I'd like to talk better about the type of services which are related to, you see the list, port logistics, smart cities, some services in the smart cities like waste management, some dedicated service of a building like smart lifts, building management, a lot of things on the roads, road sensor, infrastructure, side road units, bridge monitoring, services like smart parking. Some other kind of services which have been experimented are precision farming, wire monitoring, significant work also in the area of e-health and well-being. There was also part on tourist and museum information, environment monitoring, historical heritage monitoring, which is also very important. And I skipped it for a while, demand side flexibility, which means control of power supply from someone manages the grid towards houses, plants, etc. This work was mainly experimental in the sense that was related to European project or proof of concepts, these kind of things. The work starts really more than 10 years ago with the first implementation of HC Smart M2M, and then goes into the oneM2M updated versions. And let me say, I've seen a peak some years ago before the pandemic. After that, it started to become more something which is a little bit more on the commercial side. If you go to the next slide, you see a little bit what we had of the commercial side, at least seen more. By sure is on smart cities, we see a lot of work. A little bit bored on the commercial, let me say, saying commercial is probably not correct. There are the smart cities which are providing even commercial services, but there was still a lot of sponsoring or effort from let me say, someone from the government or someone or some authorities. On the other side, we see instead true commercial activities on commercial building management. There are several deployments of that, some run by SME, some other run by bigger company, even for some big real estate, let me say, company which really runs a lot of buildings. Some also on commercial shopping centers. Then we had again commercial smart meters, at least in Italy, which I saw know a little bit better, mainly on gas, for the fact that different solutions on electrical meters have been deeply deployed in Italy starting 22, 23 years ago. So when arrived oneM2M, this market was already covered by the electrical power company. While on gas, that is a little bit difficult, more difficult, because there is no power supply, a little bit more power connectivity. There was a significant use of using oneM2M. We had also at least a couple of examples, and one I can tell is Telecom Italia, which is using the oneM2M platform for NB-IoT. So every time someone buy NB-IoT device with the SIM, de facto is served for the data exchange by a oneM2M platform. So let me say in another way, every NB-IoT device, at least in Italy, has a oneM2M client on board. Then it was used quite a lot in different contexts for IoT device management, which is a slightly different use, not so much for data, but for the management of a device or management system. And again, there are some automotive applications. The case that again I know better is the car plant automation, full line which is producing car, which is connected wireless with a 5G solution, and there's oneM2M on the back. It's, let me say, halfway experimental and halfway a real thing, because it's an experiment. It's not something which is commercially sold in this moment, but the line which has been built is really producing car. So it's not something theoretical for a proof of concept. It's something which is running even today. It's running from months now. Now, this little list that I provided is absolutely not complete, because especially in the last year, we know that there are other implementation of oneM2M. Some of them we are aware, we cannot, there are not so much public and we cannot disclose so much. Some other even we don't know, because there are products from at least from one manufacturer which is based on oneM2M, one platform solution provider, which we don't have visibility on what is on all his clients and what is doing. Now, this is a little bit from a list point of view, but I like in the next slide provide, if you go next, and I have to thanks also Roland, part of the TP chair, which helps me provide me also some images. Here you see that Telecom Italia has several smart city work. We have as well smart cities in France. We have smart cities. We go next. Well, if you touch me, it took some time. Go. Some others in smart cities in France, as I said, like the one in Bordeaux, which is very well established. That you can find a lot of information on that. And there are, of course, all the lighthouse activities related to different smart cities, starting from Hamburg, where our colleagues of Deutsche Telekom are so engaged. If you go next slide, you see a little bit a list of the lighthouse cities, Nantes, and Helsinki, Hamburg, which are engaged in Deutsche Telekom provided solution, but Deutsche Telekom is engaged My Smart Life. You can see also in the next slide that there are several projects where we are oneM2M included. Some of them are already finished, some of them were immediately after the pandemic. Several related to smart cities, several related to roads, and that's explain why we had so many experimentation on roads and also on port logistics. If you go next slide, this is a little bit some of experimentation that we have made in Italy, that can include the city like Torino, Florence, and several others. I will not mention all. Several of them were being interconnected with other smart cities, even using different kind of platform, not oneM2M based. Because one of the nice things of oneM2M is that it is very nice when you have to connect diversity. Next slide, please. Here you see some of the services which has been deployed in Torino, from smart waste, smart BM, smart control over lights, smart control of buses for transportation and other things. One more, and we change a little bit category of work, because before what we show up is one of the main use of oneM2M, which is one really perfect use of oneM2M is when you have to combine diversity. You have to combine different kind of devices with different kind of solution which are already in field, some new one, or interconnect platform one each other. The next one, you can go, is related to a different case. The case where someone has a specific need in this moment. In the future, we will have also to interconnect with the smart building and the smart city. But there was a specific short-term need of having some standardization of an intelligent solution for smart lifts. And in this context, they arrived to ask the standard bodies to do something for them. And that process was quite fast. It took less than 1 year and 7 months for the smart escalator. So there are two sets of specifications, one for smart lift and a smart escalator. And what was the reason? If you go next slide. The reason was so fast. The work is that we can really focalize on the specific needs of communication. Because for all the rest, authentication, security, access control, management of devices, architecture itself, we have relied on oneM2M. So it's a big reuse of something already available. And that has made very quick all the work of standardization. Of this sort of thing is not yet commercial, but there are currently a POC which shows as around 200 real elevator connected now from 8 months, 9 months, so it's almost 1 year, close, a little bit less than 1 year that these elevators are sending and transmitting data. And we can also receive commands, which is quite interesting stuff. Not only, so you can really move some of them go to a specific floor, which offers to specific services for different reasons. The explanation is this. Was very important to make the test ride in public environment. So to avoid to send someone physically at the elevator, it's also very important to be able to send them or to move them from remote. There are also some services for elderly people or for impaired people, which can be based on that kind of comments. Next slide. I think I'm approaching to the end with that. So what are the main cases? We have essentially a lot of reasons for using oneM2M. It's a standard, it makes device management, it makes data management, it assures security, but you can still read the list. But look at the category itself, where it has a lot of mean to use oneM2M. When you have a lot of diversity to be connected. And another interesting thing is that the first place where we put oneM2M is not on the device of the field, because we interwork them via oneM2M. So oneM2M is a big interworking framework for the device on the field. And we do not necessarily have to develop new devices. For that, we can reuse what is available in terms of sensor or actuators. We interwork them with architecture. We use them to collect data from external source of information. There are, an example that I remember very well is Telecom Italia platform to be connected with the platform of other smart cities which were not using oneM2M, but they have big data lakes. And oneM2M can be the glue between these data lakes. Typically, oneM2M devices in this kind of implementation are more the devices which are in the hand of the humans. The smartphone for selecting your parking, the control panels in the hand of who has to manage things. And this is essentially due to the fact that when you try to build new services and mix things, these are the new devices. It's much more easy to develop new devices when using oneM2M. So as a conclusion, that I want to give with this slide is that when there is complexity, when there is a lot of things that you can already reuse in terms of data lakes or in terms of already existing devices that you can deploy, oneM2M as a framework of interworking applies very well and give you a lot of advantages. Or when you have to interconnect different platforms and share the services. I don't know if you realize, but most of the commercial solution is very difficult to share services among platforms, while oneM2M natively is designed for that. And that's the major use case. The other use case for oneM2M is when you want to have a fast solution without being forced to design all the integration of what you have. Here you have already a lot of things available, so we can really make shorter the time from when you start and the time when you have something running, exactly because you don't have to reintegrate and reinvent everything. So you can focalize on your piece, and it's the example of Smart Leaf. De facto, the POP was a game, a little game, because define the data, define the elements, give some identifier according to oneM2M, define the kind of information they have to exchange, and it's done, which is very, very easy and quick respect to any other adopted deployment. Okay, that's all. I close here. People have questions, can contact me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Enrico, for giving that very interesting overview. The fact that there are so many diverse applications to which oneM2M is being applied, as well as some new in established segments like smart metering, where smart metering has been there for so many years. It's a mature industry, and the fact that oneM2M was applied to gas metering, then the fast development that happened for smart lifts, and what you mentioned notably was smart oneM2M can be used as a glue between data lakes. That demonstrates the power of oneM2M. And also, we need not implement oneM2M in full. We can start probably with interworking with the device and gradually then grow the system as the needs grow. And like you said, it was almost like a game for the team. They simply picked up a device, they configured it, and voila, it was done. So that just shows the power of this oneM2M framework. Thank you very much, Enrico, for sharing your views. We now move to the next speaker. This talk will be by Ms. Anuradha Vettam. She will be talking about the Smart City Living Lab from India, the work done in India. The Smart City Living Lab developed by IIIT Hyderabad is a one-stop platform to connect, discover, and share smart city solutions. And a brief introduction to Anuradha before we get started with her talk. Anuradha is currently the lead architect at the IIIT Hyderabad Smart City Research Center, where she is developing a smart city living lab that will serve as a real-world test bed for deploying evaluating and creating smart city solutions that are powered by the oneM2M interoperability layer in collaboration with the Indian Urban Data Exchange platform. Over to you, Anuradha, for your talk.
Yeah.
We have your presentation. We made you the presenter. We made you the presenter.
Hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, good afternoon and good evening to everybody. I'm trying to tell about what the Smart City Living Lab, which we have done at IIIT, and I call it as a one-stop platform because we try to develop solutions, we try to develop a stack and try to connect to the other stakeholders and even try to encourage startups to get discover solutions, and we are always there to share our information. Yeah, already introduced. So I have an industry experience and I have been with IIIT for more than 2 years. And yeah, because everyone have their own definition of smart cities, I always keep trying to stress these points again and again, why these smart cities is coming into place. One thing is when in India, we consider a lot of urban inflow is happening. 10 years before and 10 years after, it is a huge change. So how do we address that? And how do we make the lives comfortable? For me, I feel smart city definition should be not smart technologies or high-end technologies. It is how do we use the technology to make the lives better? Even the government, citizens, and an eco-friendly city. And for India, smart cities is these are the various areas which we identified. There may be more to it, but some of the areas we said water, how the water is wasted, whether the water quality is drinkable or not, and energy, are we able to generate less carbon footprint? How do we customize the way we use the energy and try to monitor the weather conditions, which will help to control the other parameters? And crowd management is one of the big issues. It is in India, I think some of the cities, definitely it's a crowd management. How do we avoid any other burglary or any other emotional disturbance or agitation ahead of time and let the rescue squad reach the point? And we are also working on the smart spaces because we have lot of room spaces, and I see you sit in a room, 5 lights are on, AC is on, though the temperature is cool outside. If we can control, because next 20 years the future would be like ESG, where we should say zero carbon footprint. How do we enable it? Because we are creating the technology and again we are destroying the environment. So we need to really consider all those points. So consider that is what our definition is. And how, as I said, we need to have a lot of sensor data and then connectivity. There are places where 4G is not reachable, then we need to go for a RF mesh like Bison or LoRaWAN, or 5G for a high bandwidth data. And how do we process where the low power consumption is required, NB-IoT? So we try to cater to all those things. And after that, it is how we complete the whole pyramid is government and people need to cooperate for the implementation. Taking this into account, we have created our campus. We thought why to go for cities? Why don't I make a campus, a live lab? This is a campus where we can connect to smart cities, government, policymakers, corporates, and research and startups. And this is a place where we try to run challenges to discover new startups or collaborate with corporates to develop certain new solutions and which are useful for the smart cities to take to their level. So as I said, IIIT is a campus with all the resources, energy, water, environment, and people live in here. So we thought it would be a microcosm of a smart city. If we are able to implement in this environment, we should be able to scale it to the smart cities. And this project, when we had the idea, it got funded up by MEITI, Smart City Mission and Government of Telangana. And we are trying to, like, it all happened when we saw the Living Lab in Europe. That is how this idea got into our minds. And Amsterdam Innovation Arena and the EBTC are our technology partners. We try to interface, discuss how we can make this thing happen. As the smart campus is the heart of the Living Lab model, I'll try to brief like how we implemented the smart campus. So this is the whole stack up I have built. I hope I'm able, reference stack where we have the sensor network, then communication infra, then we have the oneM2M. We are using the oneM2M version of last CNRS Toulouse. And from there, like we are trying to use IUDX, Indian Urban Data Exchange is like a center for making this smart city data available in a readable, understandable format to all the relevant stakeholders. And that is how startups, cities, they can use it. Because what we need to understand is, like, you may be having sensors, you may be generating data, like, but how do you make it a standard data model? So like if I have some data, the other person should be able to say what that data means to them. Then only the solutions can be made. And one more interest is like when you see the architecture, one more interest is like we need to generate data sets. As of now in India, the number of data sets are available are limited. And I feel if we are trying to find some solutions to Indian problems, so we need to have Indian data sets. So we are trying to cater, like take care of energy, environment, crowd, smart spaces, water, and we are trying to generate the data sets and make them available. And we have some visualization so that you can see what is happening on live. And based on that, we can generate the required solutions. Like a lot of solutions we are trying to work on: pipe leakage detection, pollution prediction, and we are trying to use AI. Like one more thing, what we notice is when we are deploying sensors on a large scale, deploying sensors all over the city would be difficult. So we are trying to collect data and consider other impacting conditions and generate a AI model so that I can use the model in certain areas similar to this existing area where sensors deployed and with minimum number of sensors. So this is the like basic implementation. We have all these sensors which take the data to the oneM2M, and from there we have a data warehouse to archive the data, and then we use using API connectors, like we implemented API connectors to make the data available to the dashboard. For visualization, we have a dashboard, we have an app, we have a Alexa interface, and also to make it interface to the Indian Urban Data Exchange. So these are the some of the nodes which have been deployed. This is a smart lamppost, energy meter, water quality, water quantity, and one more thing, like we had different types of digital water meters. And the other thing we were trying to look into is getting the sensors deployed is it one thing, and how do we make it cost effective so that it can reach the less economy communities also, like where they can't afford so much money. So we try to do a retrofit model where you can use the existing water meters but still digitize and make the data available. These are the various sensors. And like because we are oneM2M, I just want to go in brief like how the data is, how did we implement in the Living Lab. So like we try to have different AEs generated, and we have the naming convention where we try to say this is a air quality AE, crowd monitoring, solar, so that based on the name we can identify. Sorry. And we created the access control policies, as you know, like for based on the requirement, we gave some people admin privileges, some delete, some to just creation. And we have the application entities, and we have this different nodes like weather, water. This is like weather monitoring. So we try to differentiate different nodes, and we have the descriptor. When you see, we have a naming convention defined, it is our own standard, so that we should be, when you see the node name, we should be able to say. So when you see this, it is trying to say it is Sahana Atidhi Nivas, and the node is in the ground floor, and it is the first node. So that we, by seeing the node name also, and oneM2M provides this privilege, and seeing the node name, we can know where the data is coming from. This is the like sample node descriptor. I thought I'll just show like how we are organizing, and in the node descriptor is also pretty exhaustive. Like we try to say what are the parameters, what are the accuracy level, so that if there are any outliers, or if the device interface we are using doesn't have support that resolution, we can handle that. And for people doing research, they try to understand like, okay, what is the data coming, what is the resolution, and how we can develop some models. And these are the various parameters which we define. And similarly, data comes as a comma separated data, the nodes, because we have the descriptor with the timestamps to know like exactly when the node posted data. Because like when it is registered, anyhow we are getting in the oneM2M created time, but we not to be exactly sure, like let us say there's a Wi-Fi disconnection or some problem. Actually, when was the node received the data, when did the node receive the data, that timestamp comes with it. And like once we started implementing, we realized like we need to do the data archival. So how do we do it? Then we created a data warehouse, and we tried to do the subscription, so that once the data reaches to certain level, it directly pushes into the database. So that is how, so that like for any analysis, we need to really retrieve data for a couple of months, couple of weeks. That is possible because of what we are maintaining. Here, like when you see, it is trying to create where exactly in the table the data goes and what type of data goes. That is how it is mentioned. And as I said, like we have done the IUDX interface, I just want to give a brief of what is done there. So to the people who are not aware, like Indian Urban Data Exchange, they said like we'll have a centralized data exchange for all the data related to smart cities. So they try to find out where all the data is available. They maintain a catalog, and they try to have a standard data models. And whatever data models they create, it they try to discuss with those people relevant and try to formulate. So like when we were deploying water, energy, all these verticals, we had to sit with them and we finalized data models together, so that it is clear for water. When you say water quality, what all parameters come, water quantity, what all parameters are important or relevant, so that the data models are properly standardized. They were using this 5-year reference for the data model. And we thought like generally most of the implementation in IUDX, they try to get the data from different cities and store in their server. But in our case, like we said, like we will have the data at the IIITH itself. So we created a IUDX resource server instance at our campus, where we try to, like, let us say a client asks for some data, then he will be sending it to our authorization and authentication service, and we try to validate it and generate a token accordingly. And once the token is received, the client will have a specified time during which they can access the data, and that too only to the particular data. Again, if he needs any other vertical, then he needs a separate authorization, so that data is properly secured. It is not given to unauthorized users. Because I feel having a lot of data is one thing. How do we ensure it is a secure data is pretty major thing, which we need to seriously look into. And in their catalog, they have the mention like IIITH, what all data is available, so any user can access it. And then we have the like public data sets and also private data sets. So we have a API layer through which we try to access from our database or oneM2M. We try to take the latest data from oneM2M and the historical data from the database directly. We have created that connector and that API layer to ensure that this happens. So these are the various APIs which we have built, like latest version control. One more thing we noticed is like whenever we are deploying nodes, we are like changing certain parameters, but we are not recording in the descriptor. So we have created a version so that people will know if someone is using the data, they should be aware what is the hardware used, is there a change in the data, why this data change happened. And we have the temporal API with all the start time, end time. And this is the link where you can get the Hyderabad catalog of IIIT. Because as of now in Hyderabad, we are the only ones who are providing the data sets through IUDX. And as I said, apart from IUDX, we have done this data visualization so that, as I always say to people, anything done unless seen can't be believed. So visualization is one of the important things. We have some analytics, front end, we have an app, summary view, different views. Some of the views are shown here. Like this is a summary view. At a glance, I know what is happening. These all circles are different nodes deployed. And these are the various parameter variation, how it is happening in the campus. And we have a 3D dashboard. This is a building IIIT, and we can just click on a node and see where exactly it is deployed and get the data. Apart from that, we have the map view, and we try to do some analytics also. It tries to give us compare different nodes and how the data has been changing for a week, for a month, for an hour. So those things can be captured in this. And one thing like deployment is one thing, and one thing most of the people forget is, are we maintaining it? Are we tracking it, how it is working? So that is one of the real things. When we deployed in the living lab and the nodes increased to 200, then we really started thinking like, how do we maintain, how do you know nodes are working? So we tried to use the notification feature of oneM2M and try to implement a data detective. I call this application a data detective, where it tries to look into the data validation, whether it's posting as required, and any outliers. So based on that, the concerned person will get a regular mail. And even we need to see like oneM2M is server is okay or health is okay or not. All these parameters are informed to us regular intervals. So some of the snapshots like how many outliers, how the outliers are varying, all these snapshots will be received to us as and when required.
Anuradha,
So
can you
this is a
speak?
smart,
Anuradha,
yeah, a few more slides.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. And as I said, like apart from this dashboard, smart campus, it is, we have a model to innovate, source smart city innovation. So the concept we follow is innovate, accelerate, and collaborate. That is like innovate, smart campus, and we run challenges, workshops to get the knowledge thing, and collaborate with, we have corporate partners, Silicon Labs, Intel, and Saint-Gobain, and some startups involved. And yeah, these are the people engaged with us. And these are the various projects we are trying to work with the various corporate partners. And smart city street lighting is one of the thing. And this is a very interesting thing, RF mesh network. So like it is, we can use it as a last mile connectivity for IoT data. It tries using RF mesh, you don't require extra infra. So like you can just, and this network is also a self-healing network. So maybe just 30-second video, I'll just show you.
Here's a list of all the this is one of the setup that shows the actual lab and the by sending a request to the campus, they subtract with the bot hardware it sends the command return on the lamp propagating through bicycles.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah. So, and it is a self-healing network also. If somewhere connection breaks, it tries to reconnect. I thought of showing the other videos, but time restriction. These are the various research projects which we are presently working. So we cater to the research. And these are the various publications so far within these 2 years which we have released. And ongoing activities, we are working with the local water board in setting up a water COE at IIIT campus. And we are also working with Department of Telecommunication for deploying 5G use cases. And we already have 5 data sets and integrated with IEEE 1451 gateway, and also Samsung company for integrating with OCF bridge. We have done that successfully. And this is the visibility news. And these are the links where you can reach us. And yeah, that's it. You can ask me if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Anuradha, for the very detailed view of the work being done at IIIT Hyderabad using the oneM2M, the open source implementation of oneM2M. And it's great to learn how it has grown in terms of interfacing with OCF and not just technologies, including, of course, the IUDX, which is your flagship integration. But other than that, going into other domains like what you mentioned about the water monitoring, or the road monitoring, etc. If there are any questions for Anuradha and Enrico at this point of time, can we see if there are any questions?
Yes, ma'am, there is one question.
Okay. Can we read out the question? No, that was a comment, Asif. I can't see any question as of now. Okay, so then we will move to the next, the third talk on deployments. This will be by Seung Myung on the Korea deployments. Is he in the room? He's joining online. Seung Myung is joining online.
Hello, Bindu, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And I will just give a brief description, introduction to Seung Myung. He starts. So Seung Myung is senior researcher at the Autonomous IoT Research Center at Korea Electronics Technology Institute, KT. He has received his BS and MS degrees in computer science from Aju University, South Korea. Before joining KT, he worked as a junior researcher at Advanced Standard R&D Lab CTO Division, LG Electronics. His research interests are in the areas of IoT middleware platforms like oneM2M and interworking technologies. Seung Myung has been a very active member of oneM2M standardization from the very beginning and is now the vice chair of the oneM2M architecture workgroup. Not just oneM2M standardization, he is also involved in R&D projects pertaining to semantic interoperability, collaborating with the EU consortium and cognitive IoT R&D projects in Korea. He's recently been focusing on IoT-enabled smart cities with activities of the EU Horizon 2020 Synchronicity project and the Smart City Data Hub project in the National Smart City Strategic Program of South Korea. Over to you, Seung Myung.
Thank you. So, can I share my screen, or
yes,
is
we are making
anyone projecting my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you may present, sir.
Okay. So please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
so
can.
can I go? Okay, thank you, Bindu. So my name is Seung-myung Jung, working for KD, and I've been there physically for the oneM2M meeting, but for some other occasion, I'm back to my office in the same city. So I will be talking about the oneM2M deployments in Korea, and in the other opportunities like the EU, India, standardization, collaboration, online workshop. I've been delivering some news about the oneM2M smart cities in Korea. And this presentation is a bit further to the previous one. So basically, I will be talking about again the Korean smart cities deployments because I have recent updates. And before that, I would like to discuss or explain or deliver the other aspects other than smart cities. But of course, regarding oneM2M implementation and oneM2M products, that's the main kind of idea of this presentation. So let me move on. So this is something other than the deployments, but I think this is really important and offline. Bindu said that this is really important in this oneM2M conference to deliver for the other people who are interested in oneM2M. So just like last year and this year, sorry, the title should be, this one should be 2022. Anyways, 2 years in a row, we've been throwing the international hackathon event and inviting many countries. Okay, there are a couple of typos, but anyways, the important thing is to kind of enlarge our oneM2M ecosystem and the developer kind of society community. We've been throwing the international hackathon, and this is from last year. And there were 6 countries, and the teams are not 12, sorry. It was 26 teams. It was a quite big event. And as a remote hackathon event, the hackathon was for 2 months and online. And that's why we had the kickoff meeting and the award ceremony, which is the closure event online. So this is the outcome, and the ceremony itself, which was the online Zoom meeting, is recorded, so you can play that again by yourself anytime. So here's the link. And as the outcome, since the last year, the very first international hackathon, which is the extension to the domestic event, the oneM2M Mobius developer event in Korea, hosted by Kerry. And now this is the international hackathon event, and we really wanted to have something for the other people who might be interested or who should be the future oneM2M developer. So the outcome or deliverables now are all in the Hexter.io project documentation. So if you go to Hexter.io, you can find the projects already done last year and this year. And those should be the good teaching material for the other oneM2M newbies. So that's why we chose Hexter.io with the GitHub for all the source code implementation disclosure. So again, sorry for the title. This is 2022, and we just had the award ceremony this Monday. So this is really the brand new stuff. And still 6 countries, but instead of China from last year, we now had Austria, and we have 12 teams who finished their projects. And those are 3 winners, and we have more winners, but just for the sake of the space, I just put top 3. And this is the really kind of interesting and funny, nice video of the kind of first prize winner, their demo video. And I think we can play just a little bit. And to detect the fire situations in the campus, they had a movie style demo, like all the dangerous situation and the control center, like a service scenario. And when they see there's a fire situation, they send out the kind of robot to send some mask or some stuff to people inside, and they evacuate people, and that is all monitored by digital twin platform and so on. So this is the kind of demo video QR link. So if you want to play it later or right now on your smartphone, then please take a photo of this QR code. And this year, the award ceremony and the kickoff meeting, we kind of hold the event online, of course. And the last year it was Zoom. And this year, this is the metaverse platform named Zep. I think this is the Korean service, maybe. Anyways, those are the attendees. So they join the event remotely in the metaverse with their small kind of avatar, and they walk around the main hall to talk with each other. And there on the bottom, there's the exhibition hall. So if their avatar goes down and press F button on a demo boost, individual demo boost, they can see the deliverables, their hexter and the video and so on. So it was a quite interesting event over Metaverse platform. And just for information, not just this 2022, the second event, we are expecting the third international hackathon event, but in the first half of next year. So we would like to send out the invitation really soon when it gets ready as a draft version. And the event would start in March, the early March, and it will end with the award ceremony, something like this, by the end of April. So that's something that I really want to say from Korean deployment presentation. Because Katie is really funding the whole event, and we host the event with Etsy, and now we are going to collaborate with the other oneM2M evangelists, the sender delegates and the developers and mentors to host this event even better next year. So that's something. If I go to next. Yeah, this is something new, and as you can see, even this is written in Korean, and what it says is just basically the catalog for all the AIoT services and products in Korea. So this has been kind of published by one of the Korea IoT Forum in English, their website. And yeah, this was released like in March or April, as I remember. And there are a ton of IoT or AIoT products and services. And when I look for oneM2M as a search keyword, I can find several products. And of course, those four are not the entire whole list of the oneM2M products and services in Korea. There shall be more, but from myself as the kind of researcher in the nonprofit organization, it is not so easy to find out all the list. So what I want to say is there is the list from one of these kind of catalog or maybe the other occasion in the other slide there, but there are a lot of oneM2M products and services in Korea. And after that, I will kind of go back to the story that I have been delivering for the oneM2M Smart Cities. That's why the first slide for the Korean Smart City is somehow outdated, but I will just quickly go over. So we started all the Korean Smart City based on oneM2M with the pilot projects. And in the Enrico's slide deck, he has been distinguishing the projects or the cities like the experimenter and something commercial. So in that category, this is experimenter, and it has been a while. So we started with the government-funded project, the pilot project, firstly in Busan, which is the second largest city in Korea, and next is the city of Goyang, and Goyang is the kind of neighboring city to Seoul. So from Seoul is really close, just like Seongnam that you are located in physically. So that was the second kind of pilot project, also funded by the government ministry. And Daegu, they had the other kind of pilot project, something like that. but the domain was specifically the healthcare, and they used oneM2M and the oneM2M open source implementation back then, like Mobius and the other stuff. But it's not in one of the slides. And after that, healthcare, the pilot project in Daegu City, and they still worked on the other projects as well. And the project name, or maybe the kind of program name, is called Susang Alpha City. So Susang is one of the area or district in Daegu, the metropolitan city. Daegu is the third largest city in Korea. And they are so serious about the smart city, so they have a roadmap, and they now should have a kind of longer term kind of planning after 2020. And they have experienced a lot of things, including oneM2M. And those are somehow kind of old stuff, I say. And last year in Anyang City, Anyang City is next to Seongnam, and is still near from Seoul. So in the Gyeonggi province area, there's an Anyang City. And we sadly couldn't make it, but our original plan for this week, for Wednesday, was originally to visit the Anyang Smart City because they deployed oneM2M system with the PSLTE as a network. So yeah, sadly we couldn't go there because the Anyang City is in the audit period. So the officials are so busy. So maybe we should kind of promise next time. So basically, there is a network infrastructure deployed by the government, the public safety LTE network, and they could use that government network for their smart city deployment, the Anyang City. And there are several use cases like the street light and water and find us monitoring. So this is one of the service snapshot. And this is the kind of system configuration. And yeah, there are Koreans and English altogether. Anyways, the network is PSLTE. And after the network, all the data coming from the devices and gateways are coming into the IoT platform, which is oneM2M platform. And there are, of course, the service platforms over there. So this is from last year. And this year, so this is the brand new updates that I got also from one of the oneM2M evangelists or the platform provider in Korea, Enters. They got the project and they deployed the system in Anyang last year. And from December this month, they just kind of got the project. They won the project. And for 1 year, they are going to deploy the system like the IoT platform, which is basically oneM2M. As you can see, all the jargons, they are oneM2M CSFs. So that is a core platform, and they still use the PSLT, which is the kind of basically owned by government. They got the permission to use that public safety LTE network. And the services for the Daegu again, is the smart canopy system in the hot summer season, and the seismometer system. We are a bit worried for all the disasters. That's why the project is basically the disaster monitoring services using PSLT and also oneM2M system. And in this slide, what I would like to highlight is the data gathered or all the services interactions are done with the IoT platform, of course, in Daegu City, and it is interconnected with the Daegu's smart city, their platform, and the network. So there are, I don't know exactly how it should be kind of called in formal or English jargon, but this is, of course, the network, but this is the kind of commercial platform deployment. And here is another totally different network only for the government. And this is the local government network, administrative network, fully secured. And there is the interlocking, and not just the Daegu Smart City, the Daegu City's own network. it is interconnected with the central government administrative network. So all the data or the services are monitored by the central government, which is the Ministry of the Interior and Safety. So yeah, this is something. And as you can see, they use PSLT plus oneM2M in Anyang City and Daegu City from this month as a fresh project. And the Ministry of the Interior and Safety, they are allowing the other cities to have a similar kind of system configuration with the network they allow. So we can expect more cities in Korea to use this kind of setup like PSLT plus oneM2M kind of platform. So that's what we can expect next year. And in that project, the Daegu City, the disaster monitoring with PSLT, they have the services that they are going to deploy, and to support the developers for those systems, because the platform provider is not essentially equal to the service deploying service provider like that. So they are supporting those oneM2M unfamiliar developers. So they provide a testbed for the platform and they provide technical support. So this is something that we can acknowledge what things going on in Korea in terms of smart city and in general the deployments in Korea. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Seung-Min. It was indeed very interesting to learn about the disaster monitoring use case that is being implemented in Daegu City and Anyang, and the fact that the ministry is considering rolling it out to other cities. That's one more use case added, and I'm assuming it was not very difficult to incorporate this particular use case on the oneM2M framework.
Yeah, I think
thank
so.
you very much. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Seung-Min. There was a question earlier for this particular session, which I will read out, and I'll request anyone from the speakers if they could address it, please. This question is from Mr. Shailendra Singh Narwaria from CDAC, Pune, India. He's working in the area of development and deployment of health informatics solutions, telemedicine, tele-ICU, etc. He wants to know what is the scope of integration of medical devices and wearables with medical informatics software using oneM2M, and is there any agency which could help here? So anybody from the speakers, would you like to please address this question? Integration of medical devices with the oneM2M framework. Enrico, thank you.
I'm not sure if I can really help in the sense that the one that I mentioned, it was in the list of experimental work. There are some European projects and some activity that I'm aware has been done in integrating mainly patient monitoring.
Okay.
With oneM2M, using oneM2M to integrate the data with the system already available in some hospital, and also in some the kind of residence for older people, but the one which have also medical support, not just we say basic support for people which have health problems. But the one that I was aware are European projects, which probably some of them are already finished. The maximum that I can do is to try to contact the people of this project and see how it has been further developed. This work.
Okay, thank you, Enrico. We will try to connect Mr. Narwaria. If you could share your details, we will try to connect you with the speakers and the oneM2M community and try to help you with your question, including any information that Enrico might be able to help us with related to similar work, maybe not exactly what you're asking, but similar work which can maybe help you get started. I hope that is fine. Okay, we will not be able to see his response in the question tab because of a certain technical hitch. But meanwhile, this brings us to the end of. Okay, thank you, Mr. Navaria, for confirming. So this brings us to the end of the third segment of the conference, which was on deployments. We now move to the fourth and the final segment of the conference, which is on.
I'm sorry for interruption. One more question has been raised in the audience.
Okay.
Mr. Madan.
Yeah.
Let me just read out. In India,
Yeah.
we have started working on PSLTE for disaster management in trip form. I think some information is there from
Okay,
Mr. Madan, PhD. Sir.
So this question comment is from
Mr. Madan.
Mr. Madan. Yeah. I think this is some information regarding the above questions, I guess.
Okay. Thank you, Asif.